question, to what extent have you witnessed homophobic sentiment among truthers? So for me personally, I would say I have not witnessed it to a great extent, but there have been a few well-known commentators who will go nameless who have made disparaging remarks just in passing about either the transgender or the gay community, specifically about one of them not being fit to be parents, just simply because of their sexual orientation. Um, and it's more just the sentiment that gets expressed, even though it's not a focus of the dialogue or the discussion. It's just passing comments that tend to trigger this response in me. And I think that the message that I would want to get across is that it's not a huge issue for me personally, and hopefully not for other gay people, but for people that are trying to awaken or in the process of awakening, and they're coming to the discussions and they're hearing these homophobic or um, transgender phobic comments from people who are supposedly in the know. I think that it can um, be a hindrance or an obstacle to these people trying to find inclusion. Um, so let's go on to the next question. And this is, how did you feel when confronted with this? Or if you haven't witnessed it personally, how do you think you would feel? Larry?
Well, first of all, I know that I am simply awareness experiencing this form, this being. And as the deep state says, this person, which is a dead entity. And I'm unhappy mostly when I'm not in alignment with who I am and not because of what anyone else is doing or saying. It's because when I'm not in alignment with me, it doesn't matter what you're saying or doing. So therefore, I live by this truth. Your perception of me is a reflection of you, and my awareness or my reaction to you is an awareness of me. So it's your problem if you don't like what I am, and it's my problem if I don't like you are. I still have to deal with who I am. So before I came to a full acceptance with who I am, it didn't bother. It bothered me terribly before then, but now it doesn't. And I used to be offended and defensive, but not now. Now knowing and accepting me as I am, I have accepted the live and let live philosophy or ethic. And it doesn't bother me in the least. I have let myself become that space that welcomes any experience without any judgment. Okay, it just is. It is what it is, but equally, it isn't what it isn't. And I like what Ram Dass said. I think he summed it up good. The heart surrenders everything to the moment, and the mind judges and holds back. And that's what it's about to me. So I live in the moment. I'm just myself, and people don't have to like or accept me, and I don't have to care whether they do or don't. So there.
Excellent. Rick?
What Larry said. Yeah. No. Absolutely. I mean, it's really, you are another myself is how I kind of see the world. And if there's something in you that bothers me, it's something in myself, either maybe that I haven't accepted or that I've got an opportunity or a challenge to work on. And so that's the universe's way of teaching me a lesson or bringing my attention to the lessons I have available. So, but I think for people that, are in judgment of others, it may be a reflection of a part of me that still holds value, and there being a judgmental self out there somewhere. And if I'm going to create my world to be non-judgmental and more inclusive, then that's just a call for me to be more non-judgmental and inclusive. And I wrote, it shows a level of integration of other as self, and the integration of compassion towards yourself and the world that you create. So
Awesome. Mark? Oops.
So when I think about the question, I think about duality consciousness versus singularity. And when I hear people bashing the gay community or putting them in not so good a light, it does affect me because, you know, I am identifying with this community, but there's also souls, we're all at different levels of awakening. So when I hear somebody in the awakened community leadership putting the LGBTQ community in not so good a light, I'm thinking of the people who are coming into, you know, the idea that they're gay. And some people commit suicide because they feel like, oh, the church is, you know, Jesus is against that. And so when I hear leadership in the woke community bashing, or I won't even say bashing, but just not putting that LGBTQ in a good light, it could affect those people who are on the verge of committing suicide. And, you know, yes, we are not these bodies and we are spirits, but we're a gamut, we're a range of beliefs. And I think duality consciousness separates. And when I hear it coming from the leadership in the straight woke community, that separates. It doesn't bring the inclusivity of everybody, no matter if they're getting it up the butt, Bob, or not. It's pushing that away. And I understand that the New World Order they're weaponizing the transgendered people. But so, yeah, when I hear people speaking in the woke community, not putting the LGBT in the best light, that duality consciousness needs to be aware that's what's going on. And can we all bring in the singularity, the 0 point communication where we're inclusive to all beings? So, yeah.
So for me, I think I feel disappointed when I hear the comments coming from people that are considered, you know, relatively high level spokespeople for the movement. And I don't know that I necessarily feel personally attacked by it, but it doesn't help me feel included. It doesn't help me feel like I belong completely to this community if there are disparaging remarks made. And so because of that, I tend to kind of recoil within myself and hold the speaker at a distance because I realize that there's something there that is not allowing this sense of oneness in the 3D reality that I'm seeing. So, but I think just disappointment for me is probably the biggest thing that I've felt. Okay, it looks like we have lost Larry, at least temporarily. The next question is there anything you would like well-known commentators who have engaged in this to know? And let's see, let's go ahead and give Larry a second to reconnect. Larry, are you there?
For them to know. Usually when and I get it a lot when I blog or when I post and people don't understand my point. Some people go into attack mode and some others go into, okay, you're done. Get off my page. I leave that up to them. But what I want them to know is I will be happy to clarify to you. I'll be happy to clarify to you anything that you don't understand. So what is your question for me? And that's what I'd like them to know. Feel free, ask. I'll tell you what it's like. And until, it's like I've told other people when I came out and they came against me back in the 90s, I would say to them, when, the men especially, when have I ever solicited sex from you? When? Have I ever done that? Well, no. And I said, so I don't understand what the problem is. You know, we don't talk about you and Barbara's sex life. So why does mine have anything to do with it? So that's it. Clarify. Ask me anything you want. I'm not intimidated by your questions. That's what I want you to know, commentators. Feel free, ask. And you may just need to exit that BS that you're carrying of other people's belief systems because you heard it, some good preacher say it in church that we're all sinful. Well, you know, do you have tattoos? That same Bible says you're sinful. Do you eat shrimp? Do you eat shellfish? That same Bible says you're sinful. So you want some clarification? Give it to me. Otherwise, be flying to the sunset, cornball. Love you, but I wouldn't want to be you. You got to have a sense of humor, Rick.
Yeah.
You got to have a sense of humor.
Thanks,
Agreed.
Larry.
So,
Rick,
okay.
Rick,
So what would I want them to know would be, you know, we've got an opportunity to kind of leapfrog past some very deep patterns of separation. And I think that rather than dividing the base, it's important to know who truly we're working to overcome within ourselves, or what we're working to overcome within ourselves. And rather than focusing, because really that's the game, you know, it's a separation. Immersion is where we've been and where there are forces that would choose us to remain. And that's an enslavement idea. And I think that we're all in agreement for the most part that that's a game that's over, and that this more unified idea of humanity is where our true potentials and our future lies. And so it's just a basic thing. Don't divide your base.
awesome.
Yes.
Mark,
Yeah, good.
Yes. So I'm all about Project 0 Point. And Rick, you said separation immersion. And yes, I agree. That's what the earth has totally been in, this separation immersion. We've lost sight of spirit and that we are one in spirit. And so I would say to, you know, those people that we are one. The universal law is do no harm. Sounds like love to me. And sex is love. It doesn't matter if it's between the same gender or not. I know there's different beliefs around that. But if we can get beyond beliefs to the truth of we are all one, and if people live in that place of do no harm, then we can anchor 5D energy on this planet. Duality consciousness will leave. It's not us against them, right, wrong, do, don't. It's do no harm. And from that place, what are we going to create? So when we can get beyond beliefs and pointing the finger and judgments, we can start anchoring the higher dimension, 4D, 5D, all the way, whatever, 100D, and anchor that into Gaia, and we can move beyond 3D. And the controllers of the past, the Anunnaki, the Dracos, the whoever, the 13 families, they don't want the inhabitants of Earth to come together. They fear the day that we all join and know, not believe, but know we are one in the spirit. And as soon as we connect like that, it doesn't matter what people think. Man, we're going to take off into the 0 point singularity where we're all connected with awareness, and we're all realizing we're divine beings creating what wants to come through us and do no harm in the universal law of do no harm.
I guess in terms of what I would like these commentators to know would be that there was a time when there was these very what's the word, pronounced distinctions between, say, the fundamentalist community and the secular community, between the truther slash conspiracy theory community and the non-truther slash conspiracy theory community. And because of the times that we live in, there's now this blending. You've got people, like us, who at one time would probably never, intentionally seek out um, interaction or relationship with um, straight conservatives because, it wasn't a part of our our history. We didn't feel comfortable with it. There were just these extenuating circumstances that created these rather rigid, self-contained communities where people were trying to seek belonging and connection. And because of the time that we live in, there's this blending now of all of these people that come from very diverse backgrounds, but they all are seeking the same thing, and that is truth, belonging, and connection. And there are these subtle ways that um, that prejudice and bigotry can creep in um, without being exposed. And because now we're all this big, quote unquote, happy family that are all kind of on the same boat, there are still these vestiges of, um, unresolved prejudice that can come up and need to be looked at. And who knows, maybe that's why we're all together now, so that those of us who come, from the traditional, more liberal, progressive um, side of the tracks can, can help to bring awareness to people that don't have that background and help expose more of the ultimate truth behind all of it, which is that identity politics is really a thing of the past. It doesn't have any place in the paradigm that we find ourselves in now. And so I guess that's what I would want to share. The fourth question is, what do you see as predicating the divisive remarks? Larry?
Well, I see it as a reflection of their own self-perception or lack thereof, or their self-acceptance, self-castigation tendencies. I don't see it as having anything to do with me, unless, of course, I hit on them and give them reason, you know. But I choose commit non-competition, because the scripture says those who compare themselves among themselves are not wise. And I want to be a full-time wise man. So negativity can only affect me when I choose that same low frequency of their behavior. And so I stay positive and I vibrate at the highest frequency that I can, and I've developed in mastering my own ascension. Because we give too many people the power to lower our vibrations. And I'm just going to stand true to my own frequency and allow them to stand true to their own, even if it causes them to have repercussions for what they're creating in their reality. So and then I stand around and wait for the opportunity to help them come out of that egoic selfishness. I just emit my own frequency, and I think it's all about our frequency. Their frequency causes that in them. Um, so I've witnessed and experienced that no one can really attack the real me if I stay in the light. And they can only shadow box with their own projections that come with walking in judgment and darkness against all humanity for that reason. I mean, come on, they're grouping us together now. If you're gay, it means you're probably transgender oriented too, or you're a pedophile. It's just, no more do I let people show me twice that they don't respect me. I think it was Raven 2, Shakespeare, Raven 2. I learned that from that play. No more do I let someone show me twice that they do not respect me. So I forgive people very easily now. But depending on their patterns, I may also have to deny them any access to me. And there's nothing wrong with that. The church, of course, often teaches against that. Oh, just love everyone, bend over and crack a smile. No, thank you, not going to do it. I can now love anybody, but I can never love them enough to fill the void that is in them when they don't love themselves. And that's the truth.
Rick?
Yeah, I like that, Larry. Right on. That's great. As far as what could it be predicated upon? That's again, that's their issue. I know for myself that I walked through my own path of navigating, the judgments that were imposed by culture upon me. And like Larry, I mean, I've kind of set my own vibration, my own a non-judgmental field, and to the degree that it can influence them, my kind of subconscious mantra I'm trying to remember more is how may I serve? And there are times when the only thing you can do is just be present with your energy. Sometimes you can't do any more than that, or you're not called upon. There's no way to contribute. Now, there are times when speaking up is a contribution that spirit can guide you to do. And but as far as what it's predicated on, we've been immersed in this separation dogma, and so that's really the basis that it all comes from, is that pitting one against the other. You can never resolve duality by being in it. The only way to come out of it is to be in unity, and that starts with yourself, and that is setting your own vibe. Once you are in a unity relationship with yourself, you're one. You have a coherent field. You have the ability to magnify that field in all such situations and circumstances, and potentially contribute to others understanding the oneness within themselves by that. Otherwise, it's how can I serve? Is sometimes just not doing anything but being your own vibration and contributing in that way.
Mark, what do you see as
Nice.
predicating their divisive remarks?
I'm just going to reiterate what Larry and Rick said. It comes from the place of the belief in the separation, and that 0 point within each person is the place of non-duality. Yes, we are in duality, but we are not of duality. So getting back to my Christian roots, when somebody sins, all they're doing is missing the mark. What are they missing? They believe they are separated from consciousness herself, the divine Father, God, Mother God. And so when we collectively can get back to our 0 point within ourselves, we connect. That's that's the reality. There's no separation. And but it is predicated on the belief of separation.
Okay, yeah, and I can't really add anything else to that, except I guess if I were to boil it down to one word, it would be ignorance. So, okay, the final question. How do such comments affect those who are in the process of awakening? Larry.
In my opinion, it's a major hindrance. The agenda of the deep state is always fear, intimidation, distraction, division of the people. And when we engage in any of that, well, like we try to, we're divisive. Oh, I'm gay and you're straight. Well, it just does what the deep state does. That's something we have to leave behind as a part of our own awakening process, so we can help them in their process. And now our only agenda is unity, coming together, living and letting live. So an important behavior is just to keep our personal lives private. I think that helps me, because I used to think I had to tell it all. We've all been indoctrinated, and I didn't have the training that some people have from their parents. And I just had to find my way. And I just thought I had to just tell everybody, and it was for acceptance. But keep your personal life private, and it lessens the chances of their thinking that they actually know me. I allow them only to know what I want them to know about me. Yep. And then the basis of that choice is on them. What my instinct tells me about how I should align, relate, and walk with them. How they respond tells me how I can do that. So I trust my instincts always, and they are messengers. They are messages from my soul. My instinct always. And one last thing, there is something that it's become a real dynamic principle in my life. I've learned the virtue of silence. My objective now is to demonstrate that a person's perception of me could be off the mark. And sometimes that includes, like I said before on one of the other questions, you either clarify and communicate with them, or at other times it just means being silent. And we all just feel like we have to say something. Just because something enters our head, we have to say something. Well, what I'm finding is silence heals, and it is not empty. It's full of answers. Silence is full of answers. When people don't respond to me, it tells me a lot. And I find silence is a fence around wisdom. And once we mature, we realize that silence is more powerful than proving any point. So, since a confident man moves in silence and allows his aura to speak for him, I move in silence. So it's better to be a master of silence than a slave of words. And with that, I will cut my words.
Thank you. Well, so after that expose on silence, Rick, do you dare say anything?
Nope.
I hereby have to shut up now.
Well, to that point, there were times, I had an NDE and had the out of body experience and all of that. And right after that, my field was very coherent and I could sit in silence and I could think thoughts like if a person was going on about how they felt bad about themselves, all I would have to say in my mind was, gosh, you look great today. And it would change what they were saying. And so projecting thoughts into that silence sometimes is all that's required in service to others. But as far as affecting new awakening people, sure, if it's like you were saying, Larry, if you project any kind of division, it could create guilt or self-judgment that could be like a snare that would catch them on their ascending process. So, those kinds of negative emotions could hold someone back. So, for people who are maybe wondering or not sure of, or maybe not had the nurturing that and self-will to survive as many of us have. But it's just a matter of, it could affect them in that way, as far as, dividing people and all of that. But I think that we're in a time where, we're ascending in an energetic field that's letting go of all of that. And so hopefully the energies of each individual getting stronger in that ascension is letting the divisions of separate identities fall away, because that's what ascension is. As you move into a greater sense of awareness, the identities that divide fall away.
Mark.
Yeah, I like what you said there, Rick. As we move into ascension, our identities fall away. And I think dualistic communication of separation falls away. So just for me, it would be being aware of listening to myself when I'm engaging in dualistic communication of separating myself from other people. And I like what Larry said, silence is a fence around wisdom. So when I know who I am, I'm spirit, and my auric field, I push it out in unconditional love, then I can even interject thoughts like Rick was saying and cause the change in the field. I don't even have to say anything, but it's knowing who we are energetically, working with that, and in myself, watching the dualistic lingo, like I'm not wanting to speak that out, catching myself before I engage in it, and then using what Larry said, silence is a fence around wisdom. And so, yeah, just being aware of who I am. I'm not this body. I am a spirit within this body, and I'm frequency, energy, and vibration. So now I'm training myself to see me as energy, frequency, vibration, and working on dualistic thought processes and holding sacred space in silence.
Okay, gosh, what could I add to that? Not much. I think for me, to me, the effect that it has on people is that it just presents a distraction to the deeper underlying truth.
Yes.
And what we're after right now is exposing the deepest truth that we know in order to overcome all the lies and, and these off the cuff comments and remarks, I think, are just distractions and can at least temporarily trip people up. So that would be my response. So that brings us to the 1 hour mark. I think we've covered these questions sufficiently. Does anybody have any concluding comments or remarks? Larry?
Oh, a little bit off the subject, and you might want to edit this out if you're going to post this. But if you ever meet a bird watcher who professes to be gay, a good opening statement is, I bet you've seen a cockatoo.
Rick?
Yeah, I mean, it's just we've all been duped, we've all been lied to, we've all been raised in systems of deception, and thank God we've come to a moment of celebration where we can let that all go. And to the degree that we're able to, we can drop the weights and, you know, let the balloon sail free and up into the atmosphere where we're supposed to be living, rather than in the depths of division. And so I'm all about letting the baggage go and let's get on with the party. Everybody's invited. It's a big celebration.
Good.
That's what I originally thought the rainbow was. In the 70s, I came out in like 77, 78. I thought, gosh, this is a great, God, there's probably every type of person in the gay movement that we can incorporate now. It's one big family. And I always thought, well, that's what the rainbow flag meant. And over the years, it's increasingly gotten more divided into all the little sub communities, and they've started infighting against each other. And it's really kind of been sad to see. Now, there's no hidden miracle here that our chakras, there's 7 chakras, 7 colors to the rainbow. It takes all of those chakras functioning in full synchronicity to make that white light happen. So it takes all colors of the rainbow. And, I'm all about let's all come together as that white light. There's a whole new society waiting for us. You call it Christ consciousness, whatever. It's a whole new society waiting for us to walk on the streets. We get to be the ones to pave them. We get to be the ones to build the new buildings, put in the new systems. And that's where our energies should really be focused.
Yeah, so the viewers don't know, but everyone here loves Jesus. I was a minister. Larry was a minister. Rick, Essenes, right? Essenes, pastor.
Yes.
And Steve grew up in the church. He went to Pray the Gay Away for a year. So we all have this background. We love Jesus. And we're just holding out, like I said earlier, the olive branch to all communities. Let's join. Let's usher in 5D. Let's get the Jubilee going. That's all I got to say.
Amen.